Hey, welcome. I decided to repurpose my YouTube channel and now I'm going to just be talking about whatever I want to talk about. And today we're going to be talking about the top 20 Southern University Fabulous Dancing Doll halftime shows or field shows of all time. Now, of course, I don't want to just randomly pick these routines. I wanted to have some sort of criteria to pick them. So, number one, creativity. Do we see things in the routine that maybe we had not seen before from the dolls? Do we get new movements? Is the kick line creative? Do we have a good intro? Is the ending different? Then we have technique. So that's just your typical dance technique. With the dolls, it ends up being a lot of jazz and ballet technique. But even though they have hip hop in there every now and then, or certainly in the more recent decades. Third is execution, because you could throw a whole bunch of turns and leaps and this and that in there, but if the team isn't doing it well, or if they aren't selling the routine besides the technique, like how well are they performing it? And then I decided to throw in memorable, right? So sometimes routines have technique and they are creative, but maybe we just really don't remember them, or they don't leave any type of lasting effect. Then lastly, wow factor. Were there any moments in the routine that got a crowd response? Because somewhere along the way, well, that used to be really common, but somewhere along the way they're kind of stopped. But did the crowd react? Did the routine leave you saying like, oh, okay, or oh, they did that, So each of these, they have 20 points with a maximum score, total score of 100. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Here is number 20, Imagination. The captain is Danielle Stamper. This is 2017. Let's look. There was a lot of energy right here. That was a great ripple. Look, they are jamming. Okay, look at Taylor. Selling it. They are selling this routine. Yeah. I mean, we get a lot of choreo here. Look at that. We get a lot of choreo here that we didn't get too much from them. Look at that. Well, we know where that came from. That was a little bit of Give It To Me, Baby, 97. And I really feel this whole middle section, it slowed down. I'm gonna open second leap. Ooh. Got our kick line, yeah. It's really the middle and the end that slows this down. This routine gets a score. It does have the lowest score, and please, we're talking about the greatest routine. So anything negative that I say, just know that this routine is better than your, 2011 School in Life or something. But gave this 55 out of 100. So as far as creativity goes, I gave it an 11 out of 20. I think it was best in the beginning. So the first half of the routine, we saw a lot of things that I don't think we were really getting from the dolls at that time. And it started off on a good note, but somewhere in the middle, I think it lost speed and we didn't really get too much creativity. I don't want to talk down on this process, but you hear a lot of them doing like, oh, different members of the team made up the routine and I did this part and this person did that part. And you can really tell that's what was going on here. I don't know who made up the first half of the routine, but you can tell once it got to the middle, and I can almost tell you who I think made up that middle section. It was kind of like, Sometimes you may just want to stick with just one choreographer. I found that I think the routines where one person made it end up being the better routines, because you get too much of different feel and just it's not cohesive. As far as technique goes, I gave it a 13 out of 20. We don't really have too much technique going on. I don't really remember a pirouette in there. Doesn't matter. I mean, I saw a good little open second leap. I saw some switch leaps. It wasn't really too chock full of technique, and that's fine. And the execution of that technique, I gave it about a 12 out of 20, or just an execution of the whole routine. Like I say, in the beginning, they were killing it, but if you can't keep up that energy and like performance throughout the whole routine, then it kind of, as far as it being memorable, I gave it a 7 because I'm almost certain nobody really remembers this routine. I gave it about a 12, and I think I was just being nice right there. But I do remember there were moments for me, I don't know about everybody else, where I was just like, okay, the dolls are like really jamming, or you like the little group of three doing their little dances across the field, or the little technique. I think that could give you some wow moments, or the beginning of the routine was good. But other than that, it has a 55, and it's essentially its last place of this list. So let's move on to number 19, and 19 is Right Now. 2013. The captain was April Rowlands. Let's take a look. Boombox again. Now, I really liked this routine the first time that I saw it. It's very, very fast. It has a good energetic drive, I mean, sometimes you don't get doll routines that have that really, really fast drive to the song. What was that, Beatrice on the 50? Come on now. Come on, Josie. I don't know why they always did that. They did that a lot. I wasn't a fan of this middle section of this routine, and that part particularly. This whole section I wasn't a fan of. I did like the kick line. I like fast kick lines with them. That was good layout. And I love that part. I don't know who put that in, but I've always loved that part. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. I gave it a score of 63 out of 100. Creativity, I gave it a 12. There wasn't too much going on in there that was really creative. I do like the energy of the song. I think a little bit more could have been done with it. The middle section was really, it was looking 2000s dolls, and I don't know if that's what they were really trying to do, but you can even see some moves straight out of some of the 2000s routines in that little middle section. I wasn't really a fan of. There's really no technique going on in that routine either. And the part that had the technique, the execution was bad, so I gave it a 12 for the technique, and I gave it a 13 for the execution, because the execution is not just how they did their turns well, but did they sell the routine. And I do think a lot of them did a good job at performing that routine. Kayla Vaughn on that little part, I mean, goodness, I don't know who put that in there, but that's always been a kicker for me. Memorable. I would say this routine is sort of memorable. I think people do think of it or may say something about it. So I'm just gonna give that a 13. I'll probably give it another score. Don't hold me too much on my scoring system. Somebody say the scores don't add up just like the tryouts, but we're not gonna talk about that. Wow factor, I think there was a wow just with the song. Like the drive of the song would make people in the stands, and I remember it, kind of like, oh, okay, like you just felt that was a really wow moment, but it's not up there. It's not up there. 18, and number 18, we have one of my favorite routines of all time at number 18, but I had to be fair. System of Survival from 2001. The captain is David Dumars. I never know how to say her last name, but let's take a look at it. What an entrance, Goodness. And I don't know the last time we've heard Southern play this song. They used to play it all the time. Look at Tiana. Come on, back walk over. That was a good leap. Look at them. Precision. Look at this pirouette. Oh, goodness. Goodness, look at him. Clean. Clean in the traditional. Jump split. Slow moment. Come on, choreo. Just for a second, though. Good. Toe touch. Ooh, middle split. But I don't know. See, now it's like I want to cheat. I want to like end up changing my scores so that they work in my favor, but I'm not trying to be well, let's leave that alone. So that one I gave a total score of a 65. So for creativity out of 20, I gave it a 9. Out of all of the greatest doll routines, that was not really the most creative routine. Now, creativity varies. Sometimes you want to give respect to the time period. So like, was it creative for the time? But that wasn't even creative for that time. Technique. Like, I don't know what it was about the 2001 squad, but they had technique and they showcased it almost any chance that they got. I don't know what it is, but the fan kicks of the 2001 and that 2000 squad, they were just perfect. I mean, you just get the perfect fan. Their arm positions are the best. I feel that the kick lines during that time, the kicks were high, the legs were straight, no one was hunched. They were moving, I mean, goodness gracious. I gave that a 16. And the execution of the technique, that's a 19 out of 20 for me. I don't see any issues. The timing of the pirouettes from that routine right there, and all of the routines they did, the toe touch into the middle split, I mean, memorable. That routine is not memorable. People watching this ain't even seen it. They did this during the season. I can't remember when. I want to say they did this at the FAMU game that year. Wow factor, I'm going to give it a wow factor of 12. They had a jump split in there, but they were kind of doing that a lot at that time. But we did have some gymnastics going on, acrobatics, whatever you want to call it. But nobody really cared. But I would like to see the band play that again and have it be a doll feature. Cool. All right, let's move on. Number 17, we have If You Were My Man. We got our 2010 squad, and the captain is none other than Datara Frank. Now, this was a very memorable squad. That was a great entrance. Great intro. Look at Casey Griggs showing out. Yeah. That was a very different kick line for the time. It really was. Double, and all of them landed that kick. Yeah. Yeah, this was good. This was a good routine. That was a good routine. I almost want to change my scores. Come on, Sierra. Look at Sierra. Ooh, Sierra is bodying that part. Yeah. That was good. So If You Were My Man gets a total score of a 71 for me. I know some people may want that to be a little bit higher on the list, but it's not for a couple of reasons. Now, creativity, I gave it a 15, and this is the highest score we've had so far out of 20, 15 out of 20. That entrance or that intro was very, very creative. We'd not really seen too much going on with the dolls as far as their like intro. Most of the times they started off with just some pose and then they may do something interesting right in the beginning, but that intro, that was very, very creative with the toe touch and roll up. The kick line was pretty creative, the little stall on the legs. We had some scorpions going on. The breakdown, the hip hop breakdown was a little different for that era. We weren't really getting good breakdowns until that. A 12. I don't think we had too much jazz or dance technique really going on in that routine. We had a double pirouette. The execution of the technique was fair, and the execution of the routine itself, I think, was great. Even just for that practice, they were clearly going full out. Had a lot of good energy and showmanship, and that's really what will make or break the routine, because they did this routine later. I want to say they did this in 2017, and I didn't like it. And I chose the practice one because the execution at that actual game, I don't think was all that great. Memorable, that's definitely a memorable routine. I give it a 16 out of 20. That's definitely a memorable one. That's another routine where the song helps it become memorable, because that's such a great arrangement from the juke. They played the mess out of it. And were there any wow moments? I gave it a 14 out of 20. I don't really think it was too much of a wow. The intro could give you a good, like, oh, you were pretty shocked, but I don't think there was too much of anything else going on. But I love that routine. That's a classic now. Anything that they repeat, I think we can see they consider it a classic, but sometimes that ain't really the reason. Number 16, surprise, surprise, System of Survival, but this time it's 1996. And the captain is Gina Joe. Come on, gold Beyonce when it was actually gold. Energy. Classic dolls right here. Performance. Look at them. Performing for you. Performing for you. Ooh, performance. Goodness. Ooh. Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's just a show. It's a show. It was such a show for them. The field show was it. It didn't. Nobody cared about stands. Yeah. See, that's the difference. And everyone we really romanticize the 90s dolls, but they're romanticized for a reason. Performance was everything for them. You can just see the energy and wanting the crowd to be invested in what they were doing. You don't really get that too much. You just get that it's like, we're gonna smile and we're gonna do this routine, but they were not playing. And that's the difference between this System of Survival and the 2001. The 2001 version was definitely much cleaner, definitely much better technique, but like these dolls were like, we're about to dance. Like, we are about to dance for you. Creativity, I gave it a 13. I don't think it was that creative. And like I say, you do want to give respect to the time, but I am keeping that in mind because this is 1996 and there were routines before it and shortly after it that were much more creative than that. If I have to give it a score compared with the other ones in this list, I'm going to have to give it a 13. For technique, there was barely any. I did see a pirouette, and the execution of said pirouette was not great, but I gave it a technique score of 11. There's not too much going on in there. We did get some good energetic axle turns in the beginning. So I did give the execution of their small amount of technique a 17. And the execution of the routine itself was amazing. Like, even I don't really care if somebody fell out the pirouette or if we didn't get too many leaps. I don't really care too much about that. They sold the mess out of that routine. They were so invested in the routine. The field show was it. It's like nobody cared about the dolls in the stands. We really didn't care about the dolls in the stands till, I don't even know, maybe 2010, 2007 possibly, and every now and then, but it was that field show, and it shows that that's what they cared about because the execution was amazing. Memorable, I gave it a 14 because I don't think too many people even remember this routine either. unless you just like a diehard doll fan or something like that. So I gave that a 14. And as far as a wow factor, I think that's a 17. Number 15, and people may be mad about this because they probably think that this should be much higher, but it's just not in my book. Number 15, we are on Oh Sheila from 2013, and the captain is none other than Miss April Rowlands. Let's go ahead and take a look. That was a very creative intro, without a doubt. And we're getting good choreography throughout this section, kinda. They did that a lot that year. All right, we got some Alice Cone turns. That was a pretty good turn sequence. And I feel like the one I watched originally from whatever this debut, because this isn't the debut performance, I don't think. But the debut performance, I don't think that was that cute. That was always a great highlight of this routine. I did not like this breakdown. I hated this hip hop breakdown. I really did. I can't even call it hip hop. I don't know what I want to say. Creativity, I gave it a 15 out of 20 because there's no denying that that routine is creative. I mean, it was very creative. Intro was very creative. It was very different. The fact that the routine ended where it started, that was very creative. I think we had very creative choreo all throughout, because that can be something that breaks a doll routine. They'll be creative in some parts, and then they just have a part where you can tell, like, can we just find some more counts and finish this routine? You can tell, like, when that happens. This one, it seemed to be quite cohesive. Technique, I gave it a 13 out of 20. I think all we really had were those Alice Cone turns. We had some other little things going on here and there, nothing really too out there. And the execution of it, I gave it a 14. I don't really think it was all that. I think Right Now was definitely more energetic than Oh Sheila was. Memorable, yes. It was certainly a memorable routine. I gave that a 17 out of 20. As far as a wow factor, I gave it a 14. I don't know. I'm not a fan of Oh Sheila, wasn't. All right, so let's move to number 14. This is a little lower than I think it should be, but then in retrospect, it's not. So here we are with Don't Want to Lose Your Love, but the 1996 version, and the captain is Gina Joe. Yeah, energy. I mean, all the time. Goodness. Beauty. This video itself is iconic. Body. Look at her dancing. Come on now. Yeah, they used to do that sequence all the time. Goodness. Who brought that sequence to the dolls where they kick and then turn to do another hitch kick? They used to just do that all the time. Come on. Now that was like one of the first open second leaps I've seen from the dolls. I swear. In 96. I don't remember seeing it any time before that. I'm probably lying, but I don't remember seeing it. Why are we getting all this band shot? Goodness. I'm not doing that. Woo! So that routine, I gave that a score of, let's see, a 74. You know, that video is iconic. Like the exact view that we just watched, like that's iconic. Anyone who's a band head knows that like the Bayou Classic 96 is one of the best Bayou classics of all time. And like people have watched this halftime show this exact version of the NBC broadcast like so many times. This is one of the first doll teams that I ever saw actually in 1996 in Atlanta at the Georgia Dome. And I almost picked that view up top of this routine, but if you saw the view up top, you'd be even less impressed, in my opinion. But this view is iconic, so it kind of makes you want to make this routine much better than it is. And it's not bad, of course, because I'm talking about the greatest routines of all time from them. But overall, not really. Like, but the creativity in this routine, I gave it a 13. Gave it a 13 out of 20. Changed that. I mean, it was actually more creative for that time compared to, say, like that System of Survival from the Alabama State game of that same season. This was definitely more creative than that. We had a lot of technique going on. There's some sections that you don't see when they were showing the band that I think were pretty creative. She had a little hip hop and kind of almost, I don't want to say a Tootsie Roll, but there was a lot going on, but it wasn't all that creative. We had some individual technique going on. I saw some tilt jumps and some open second leaps, and we got our good axle turns from the dolls in that moment. Execution, I think the routine was executed well. They sold it as the 90s dolls always did. They sold that routine, and that's what it is for the 90s dolls. That's what people liked, and that's what they remember. They remember the smiles, they remember the energy, the pizzazz, and just knowing that you were looking at them. That last little shot of Gina Joe, I mean, the ending of that routine is so basic, but it's so iconic because, like, just that little shot of them walking with the hair and the face, and just that is almost the epitome of what I remember 90s dolls to be. That clip of them walking at the end of that routine is like, that's a classic doll, for real, for real. But memorable, it's certainly memorable. That's definitely a memorable one. I gave that a 19. I gave that a 19 out of 20 because that is one of the most memorable doll routines, probably of all time. And I know somebody probably wish it would be a little bit higher, but it wasn't creative. It wasn't creative. And there was barely any technique going on. And if you were to, I promise you, if you go look at the other view of that routine, you're not gonna be impressed by it. Wow factor, I gave it a 15. It's wow factor for us and just being nostalgic and just loving 90s dolls. But in the moment and actually just thinking about it as being a wow factor routine, I don't think so. We are on number 13, Give It To Me Baby, 1997. And the captain is Christy Vincent. Let's take a look. All right, so this is just an iconic routine. Goodness. They love some axle turns in the 90s. Goodness. That's where we first did that move, I think. I feel like if there was a routine that either doll fans know, like count for count, it could be this one. Goodness, come on, energy. Whoa. Ooh. Come on, dance. Ooh. What's going on? Anyway, for creativity, I gave that a 15 out of 20 because certainly during that time, that was extremely creative. The intro was very creative. All of the different things we had going on. You also get a lot of your, what will become, I don't want to say classic doll moves, but moves that the other captains that came after Christy like wanted to emulate. A lot of them come from that routine. So we had the little kind of falling jump motion. We have the little hip beat there. I mean, they started trying to do that all of the time after this routine. So it was very creative, and it definitely set the bar quite high. Some things could have been better, but you know, It was just 1997. Technique. Like I said, we had our axle turn. Like they didn't. I try not to judge the 90s squats too much on technique. But not really, because there was more technique coming a little bit earlier from Tracy Prince. Like she was putting a lot of stuff in there that right after that they started kind of letting go of. But there wasn't too much of that in here. We had an axle turn. I think that was it. We had some other little combos that were pretty nice, but that was really it. And the execution of the routine, I mean, goodness gracious, that I gave that a 14, because all the way through, in this particular performance at least, some of it was hit or miss for some of the people that just happened to be coming by. But overall, I think they definitely sold that routine very well. But I don't know. I wasn't really too much for the execution. Is it memorable? Of course. I gave it a 19 for memorable. That is just, all of the 90s routines are going to rank high as far as being memorable. Wow factor, I definitely think it has a wow factor. I gave it a 17 out of 20. You know, anytime they've ever done Give It To Me Baby or the band plays it, the crowd always has to do the oh part, you know. So that always gives you that wow factor. A lot of the things in the beginning, you know, the little heel stretch into the split, I think gives a little bit of a wow factor. I do think, and this may be an unpopular opinion, I really like the 2007 remake of this that Ari did. And I think the ending to Ari's Give It To Me Baby was better than that one, because I just coming out and sticking your hands out. Number 12 is Working Day and Night, the 2012 performance of it. The captain is the greatest, the Sierra Cole. Goodness. Uh-oh. Now this routine has become a classic, hasn't it? When's the last time we seen this uniform? Goodness. Come on, baby, Kayla Pittman. Such a good kick line. I never liked that part. The killer piece. Ooh. Come on, Casey. It's a classic at this point. We do know there have been several Working Day and Nights over the years. I think the earliest one I can remember, I think there was one even earlier than 95. I really do. But we got the 95 one with Tracy Prince was leading that, which is where they got that kick line from. And then we know they did some maybe 2000, 2001, 2002. I know they definitely did one 2002 and 2003. And I don't like that one. And then we have this one that debuted, I want to say in 2008. They did it again in 2009. I gave it a creativity score of 10 out of 20 because this was a remake or a redo. And I just didn't feel comfortable saying it was creative. But I also didn't want to choose the 2008 performance of this because the execution of this squat was better than 2008 and 2009. I'm just gonna keep it there. If anybody want to be mad, send your lawyer to my inbox. Technique, I gave this a technique score of 18 out of 20. I don't know if it should have been that high, 18 out of 20, but definitely like 16 out of 20. Literally right when it counts off, it's like, boom, chock full of technique. It's like Sudanu, fan kick. I'm like, goodness, and it's such a fast turn kick combo. And I can remember some of the other technique pieces besides the little breakdown that starts with the double pirouette to the, I guess I can call it Firebird. Not many of them did the Firebird leap. Some of them, I don't know what they was doing, but that's all right. Which is why I gave it an execution of 15. But overall, the energy of this performance which is why I didn't want the 2008 or 2009 performance. Of this one, it was up there. I mean, the energy was there. You could see the showmanship on their faces, the energy. It drove all the way through from beginning to the end. Was it memorable? Yes, I gave it a 17 out of 20 as far as being memorable. The 2008 performance may be more memorable than this one, but it just wasn't better. As far as a wow factor, I think Working Day and Night has always given the crowd a wow factor because we just love Michael Jackson like that, and the band plays the arrangement so well. And it's, at this point, it's a classic jukebox song and a classic doll song. So I gave both of those 17. 17 for wow, 17 for memorable. This is number 11, but it has the same score as Working Day and Night. But I just put it up there because I think I like it a little bit better. Beautiful Monster from the 2010 squad, led by the captain, Datara Frank. Have we seen this uniform in a while? I can see that energy. Ooh, that was great. Yeah. I love this choreo combo right there. That was good. Always been good. Always been good. That section has always been great. Ooh. Double. Ooh. I'm glad they changed that. One of the best breakdowns they've had right there. Mmm. I gave it a creativity score of 14. That should probably be higher, now that I'm thinking about it. It was very creative. I think Datara does not get enough credit anymore. At the time, I think she was getting credit. She doesn't get enough credit as far as bringing the dolls into the new age, because it was really her. People like to either make that Sierra or they like to make that Kayla Pittman, when in reality, it was kind of Datara. I mean, that's when we started getting more energy from the dolls. That's when we started getting more energy from them in the stands. Maybe Aerie, but definitely Datara pushed that envelope on the stands and in the field. And that field show is it, because that was extremely creative from the very beginning. It never lost energy throughout. Technique, there was a lot of technique going on in there. I gave that a 14. I think there was more technique in Beautiful Monster than Working Day and Night. Was there? In Beautiful Monster, we had a lot of individual technique going on. I don't think it was showcased by the entire squad as much, but we had it in there. I saw a little turning disc leap that I don't remember seeing until now. That switch leap that Sierra was almost into the heavens on was pretty great. So the execution for that, I gave that a 14 as well, because everyone, I don't think, was executing it that well, or most of the team. Sometimes we let our like stars take us into the routine and like, ooh, look at her do this switch leap, look at her do this jump, and it's like, you're not seeing the rest of the team just kind of strutting basically to the next spot. Memorable, it's definitely definitely memorable. That's what brought it up here. I gave that a 19 out of 20. That could possibly be one of the most memorable routines out of the decade. And as far as wow factors, I gave it a 16. We had a lot of good choreo ripples going on there. And that had one of the best drum breakdowns from the dolls in a while. And I used to get tired of seeing them do the breakdowns because it'd always be like some stale hip hop choreo, and it was just like, ugh. But that one was really good. Really, really good. Cool.